Thank you all for coming out. It's a pleasure to meet you all. My mom always, that's all she talks about. She talks about me with you, and she talks about you all with me. So I'm really glad to put some faces to names here. And I don't know if you know, we have two other naval aviators in the group and two Air Force pilots out here. So.
Where? Yes, stand up.
Naval aviators, Air Force pilots, hands up. Air Force pilots.
That was Pat. That was Pat.
Oh, that's
Pat left. Pat
Oh, you left? Okay.
Pat left.
But honor to meet you guys. Thank you for coming out. All right, I knew Mom was going to tell some weird story about me, so I'm going to start off with a little background. Guess who that is? This won't surprise a lot of you if you haven't seen any old photos of Mom. She's always been beautiful and flamboyant, and
That's really Temple?
does anyone know who was the first Miss Teenage America?
they get you back hard.
Go back.
Always the accordion. That's Steve McQueen if you can't see it from the back.
That was the Easter parade.
So I put these in here to just show you part of what I am. Is I grew up with a supermodelism. That's me when my first train set, I think. Here's Mom and her first two kids. My sister Tara, Mom, and me, of course. That's probably Granny off to the side of the picture.
Probably.
All right. I didn't know exactly what to talk about today. I don't want to get up here and just talk airplane and flying stuff. You know, there's some of that in here, but so if I get kind of boring, let me know if I'm going the wrong direction.
Are you kidding?
I was hoping to talk more on the people side of my career.
That's right. You're never boring.
Okay, I'm half of this is true.
If you get bored or we get bored, we go back and talk about and see more of Brenda.
Okay,
That's what
I got more on the list here.
We're ready.
please.
Everybody.
Okay, a little bit about my education. Grew up here locally in San Marcos. I went to high school here. We had a little avocado farm, and went to San Marcos High School. Never really had an interest in aviation per se. I had it always in the back of my mind. I liked airplanes. I liked pointy airplanes, the ones that look cool. That was it. That's what got me started.
You like driving things, we know that.
I like driving things, I like going fast. We had a little Ford Fiesta that would do 105.
Which your mother never knew, of course.
But I started off in the military, as she alluded to, and I wasn't a military type at all. To give you some background of how I got interested in it. In fact, that was me in high school.
Surfer.
1979, that's, you look like Robert.
Yes, like Brenda.
Look familiar? Spicoli, yeah.
Probably about the right year, too.
So one thing we didn't have in high school, we weren't well off in high school, so I wanted to go to college, and I knew we wouldn't have the money to go to Ivy League. I almost went to Cornell, but they couldn't come up with an athletic scholarship at the time, so I ended up playing football to try to get a scholarship to go to school. So that actually worked. I went to Utah State. I think I have a picture of. Oh, this is later. I went to Utah State and played football there for a couple of years and for free. So I got a couple of years of college done, and then figured out I really didn't like playing football. I never did, really. Sorry, Mom. So a friend of mine got me interested in California Maritime Academy, which is a merchant marine training school up in the Bay Area. And it's a great school. It's still there. It's a California state school. They have engineering degrees and what I call a deck degree. People want to learn how to drive civilian ships and make a lot of money. They go there. So anyway, I went there, graduated, and part of the way through there I did time on an actual oil tanker as a cadet for $16 a day. And I was doing pretty hard labor, and I realized I I don't want to be on ships. So, they had a Navy office at my school because we had to take Navy classes, and they had brochures in there on the front desk, and it said, be a Navy pilot, and it had some guy with sideburns down to here, standing in front of an F-4 Phantom, and I thought, that's pretty cool. And then one day on a storm off the coast of Canada, I'd had enough, and I said, okay, I'm going to go do that Navy pilot thing. I'm going to grab the brochure and go do that. So I did it. First career, I'm going to go through some careers here, because this is on my 5th career. Actually, yeah, it's my 5th career. My first career was a fighter pilot in the Navy. And I just put some random slides in here, and that's an Ensign Stu back in the day, about 40 pounds ago. Let's go back one. Actually, we don't have to. Anybody recognize an A4 here? I know we have an A4 pilot next.
Top Gun.
There we go. Now this is naval flight training. I went to Pensacola for a year, did primary flight training. Went through the whole jet program in the Navy, and ended up flying these before I got my wings. I got my wings in this plane. In fact, that was my last flight in Navy training. And that was a fun flight. It was a 3-plane flight. There was 2 Marine Corps majors in the lead plane and 2 solos on the wing. And I brought a camera that day, and every time I saw their heads looking the other way, I'd whip the camera out. And we flew to Memphis and landed and got lunch and debriefed that flight, and then flew back. And that was that was the final training flight. And when we got to Memphis at lunch, one of the Marine Corps majors, was kind of a hard ass, said, "Hey, which one of you 2 have the camera?" I go, "That was me, sir." He goes, "Next time, why don't you pull a little forward and you get both planes in the picture." So I knew I made the right career choice at that point. That's the day I got my wings. Remember that?
Yeah.
Meridian, Mississippi. She looks the same, huh?
Yeah.
There's my grandfather and grandmother. Fancy uniform. Then I went off to. I saved it. I waited till Mom got to Meridian before I told her. We all got to pick. Didn't get to pick. We got chosen for us where we're going to go and what we're going to fly in the Navy. Could have been anything from all the jets that go on and off carriers. And I found out I got my second choice. They didn't have my first choice that week, but it was fly F-14s at Miramar, which is down the road here. You guys been by Miramar? So, lucky me, I got sent back to San Diego to fly F-14s, and I told her
What was your
when we got
first choice?
there. F-18s.
Oh,
They
not
weren't-
at Miramar.
No, they didn't have it.
Oh.
They turned out good because the F-18s are up in Lemoore. If anyone knows where that is.
Yes,
I'm from the Moore.
Coalinga.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's a great place unless you're a
I'm from
24-year-old fighter.
Stratford. Yeah,
It's another in North County.
So I went off to fly. That's my first squadron VF1. Flew off the carrier Ranger for 2 deployments. And then, let me just cycle through these, see if I have any more good stories. There's my grandfather and I. He did a Tiger cruise, which is when family members can go on the ship from Hawaii to San Diego at the end of the deployment. And unfortunately, it was men only at the time. It was a man's show back then. Not anymore. I was on the ship. I got some kind of award. This is my buddies. These are all my roommates here on my second deployment. This guy looks angry, huh?
Serious.
Yeah, all deployments I've done, I did 3 carrier deployments over 2 tours to the Middle East. We started going into the Persian Gulf. We were one of the first carriers to actually go into the Persian Gulf and operate out of there. And during the first Gulf War, we had 3 carriers up operating in that Persian Gulf, and they were concerned that one carrier wouldn't have enough room to do its thing. But we did it with 3, day and night. It was never a problem. Unless you tried to land on the wrong boat, which was it didn't happen, but there's a good story. I've heard this, you can back me up on this, somebody landed an A7 on the wrong ship one day. And they waved him in, gave him the green light, go ahead and land. They landed him, said sorry, wrong boat. Took him down to lunch and repainted his plane while he was in the put him back in the planes. And, all right, so, so these are still good friends of mine. One of them's not here anymore. That's Moose Sweeney, great guy, a bodybuilder. He's a backseater in the F-14. He's also in the back of one of the planes that went into the World Trade Center. And I didn't know this until I was listening to the radio and I heard his voice on a voicemail telling his wife from the plane, "I'm not going to make it. Go on without me. I love you." And, I recognized the voice. I'm still pissed off about that.
yeah.
There's some more guys. That's my now brother-in-law, by the way.
Yeah, my daughter's husband.
I warned him about her. All right, some more F-14 fighters. Me happy out on the boat, happy to be out on the boat. I was not really that happy to be out there. It was a rough life.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, it was. Living on an aircraft carrier, you guys can back me up on this, is not fun. It's not pretty. All the water tastes like jet fuel, and it's hard life. You don't sleep well, and you're young, you can get away with it, but eventually it got a little old.
Yeah, it looks like you're having a real bad time there.
That was actually New Year's Eve at the QB Point Officers Club in the Philippines. That's the only picture I can show from that time. There's a picture of the boat. Did a lot of flying off the boat. I have 476 carrier landings. Over 200 of them are at night, which is no fun at all. So you all know how a carrier works. This is not during a deployment because there's only 4 planes, 5, 6 planes on the deck. It gets pretty busy.
Neat shot.
That is on deployment. That's how tight they have to pack them.
Sardines. Remember what you did trying to land on an aircraft carrier at night, just trying to land in a 7-Eleven parking lot
No, well,
in an earthquake?
what my mom said is when the first time I saw an aircraft carrier at night was I was trying to land on it. I looked up and was mortified because it looked like a parking lot of a 7-Eleven in the middle of the desert. It didn't look like a landing area at all, and I was shocked. So I kept coming in, and they said, don't worry, it's going to look weird, and it looked weird. And it was,
You made it.
in the last few seconds, it starts looking like you're supposed to land on it.
You didn't have folding wings.
Huh?
You didn't have folding wings.
Well, they fold back.
Did they fold?
They swept back like that.
Okay.
There's my first squadron on the flight deck. Then I got married. Remember that picture?
Yes, I do.
My first wife, Jan, mother of my children, Matthew. Where are you, Matt? Oh, way back there. And my daughter, Allison. That changed the whole. Let me get a kid picture. There's Matt. That's my little boy back there. But that changed my whole attitude on being out on an aircraft carrier and doing that kind of thing. In fact, I purposely didn't get married for 2 deployments because I wasn't sure I was going to make it through those 2 deployments. I was pretty sure, but it was like a 1% chance in the date that you wouldn't come back, which is not great odds statistically, but I didn't want to be married when that was finished. And there's Allie, my daughter. There's Mom, my grandparents on we had these Independence Day cruises where you go out for the day on an aircraft carrier and you bring your family. Has anyone ever been out on one of those? It's fantastic. It's awesome. If you ever get a chance, they go out 30 miles off the coast, so you can go supersonic. You can drop bombs, so like live bombs in the water by the carrier, and shoot missiles right in front of everybody. Didn't I launch on a catapult right in front of you?
Yes, I think you did.
Yeah. There are people 20 feet from the wingtip, and they catapulted me off the plane, off the aircraft
I have
carrier.
to tell you, can I just interrupt for a minute?
Yeah.
The first time he was taking off after he was transferred to Miramar, I was so excited. So he called me and he said, I'm going to be taking off at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I couldn't go on base, but I had a red Corniche at the time, and I thought, well, he can see that. So I pulled in a little parking place. As you go down the runway, outside, I could park the car there. There was that big red car. And then I thought, well, I could do a snow angel as he's taking off. So here the plane takes off, and I'm going like he's watching. I said, did you see me? Right?
You have 2 other things on his mind, right?
I saw you.
Oh, you did.
All right, that's a missile under a drone F4. After I did my first 2 sea tours, I got what they call a short tour. I got to be a test pilot at Point Mugu, which is up near Ventura. And I was a missiles project officer, and I was in charge of development of air-to-air missiles. And I got to shoot 2 missiles during that time for 2 completely separate projects. They were on successive days for some reason. So I shot 1 missile and then shot the next missile the next day for completely unrelated. And that was it for 3 years. I shot down one of these things. That's another good story. I actually shot it and it broke it, but it was still flyable but not landable. We hadn't briefed that. So I chased down the plane that I shot down. It was still flying, and I was talking to the guy who was flying it from 60 miles away at Point Mugu. And there was silence on the radio. I'm like, what do we do with it? Can't come in. Is it landable? And they told me before, we don't want this plane back because they have to spend a lot of money to upgrade it, and they don't want to spend the money. So I said, no, it's not landable. Why don't you just fly it? Hang on, let me get my camera out. Fly it into the water. That'd be really cool. So I did, and the guy flew it into the water at 600 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
$10 million airplane.
How did he get out?
There's a Corniche, by the way.
How did he get out?
It was a drone. It was a drone. The guy was flying a remote control.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't have shot it if I knew it.
Did he parachute
Oh, there's the car.
There's a car.
Well, I could have seen that from up
I just
there,
knew
4
he could
miles
see it
up.
from his
You would think so.
pilot.
So by the way, I was away at college and then away doing the Navy stuff, and somebody was back home doing great in real estate. Yes, he was. One of the best top real estate brokers in the country, I think, at the time.
Well, a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Still
Stu?
counts.
Sir?
Tell them about what the captain on the bridge said when he looked down.
Oh, that was back in college. I told you I'd worked on a civilian ship for one semester. It was a semester at sea. It was ARCO, the fuel guys. So I was on this big tanker called the ARCO California going back and forth from Long Beach to Valdez. Fill up with oil, come back to Long Beach. I did 6 round trips during that winter semester. But one day we pulled into the port in Long Beach, and Mom was there waiting because she knew I was coming in. We're going to go out to dinner during my 24-hour break. And I was up on the bridge when we were pulling up to the dock, and the captain had the binoculars out, and he's looking at this rolls in the parking lot. And I'm just like, and he looked at the pilot and goes, "It looks like Mrs. Arco is here." There's a family shot. This is my younger brother. Is that Rich? Yeah.
Yeah.
Grandparents, me and Jan, Mom.
Right.
That was out at the Polo. What's that place called?
Polo Home.
Polo Home.
That's a nice picture.
There's a handsome guy.
Oh, I recognize
Oh, I think that's our
Oh, and yeah, I put that in there because right around 1990 was when you guys met.
Can't fly worth a damn.
And Stu was the reason that we met. We wouldn't have met without you.
Yeah, I had a friend from grade school whose mom lived in La Jolla. She was having a party one night, and did I invite you, or did she invite you?
She invited me.
She invited Mom, so we all went to this party, and there was Ed. And long story short, they hooked up. I didn't like
The news said bells rang.
Yeah,
Hooked
bells
up,
rang.
hey Stu, hooked up means something different today.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't mean join a church group together?
No.
But anyway, I wasn't too kind to Ed in the first several decades or so. I was always protective of Mom, but he's turned out to be a great guy, and welcome to the family, Ed.
6 years later.
All I can say about that is over the past several years, when I talk about you, I talk about my son.
All right, more family stuff. That's the 3 kids. Can you see that, Mom?
Yeah.
Wow.
Back to flying. All right. That's just a cockpit shot of the F-14D. I don't know what all the buttons do, but it's a pretty cool plane. That model, the F-14, was a monster that the plane should have been from the first day. It came out in the 70s. This thing wasn't developed until the mid-90s, basically, when the F-14Ds made it into the fleet. And it had huge engines on them compared to the ones I mostly flew. It was just a monster plane, a lot of fun to fly. It could track, might be getting too technical here, but it could track 24 enemy aircraft and shoot 6 missiles at the same time, and 6 of them. And you could pick them.
6 different, wow.
6 different, and halfway through the flight, you could turn away and go away, and the missiles would continue on their own. It's phenomenal. I almost shot myself down too with one of those. There's a bunch of sea stories. I got to shoot 3 Phoenix missiles one time that were expiring, so they were trying to get training out of these missiles that are getting old. And we went out with 12 planes and 6 planes and 13 missiles. I had 3 of them on my plane, so I got to shoot 3 of them. The first one went off like advertised. It dropped off the plane, Then a rocket motor fired and it waited 3 seconds until it was out in front of the plane, and then pulled this maneuver to get more range. Basically, they go up really high in the sky, but it pulls up hard and goes up in the stratosphere and then glides to the target and hits it. The first one did that fine. The second one, the rocket motor didn't fire, but it did everything it's supposed to. It dropped off and then pulled up right behind my plane. My wingman said it would miss me by about a foot. It pulled up and the rocket motor never fired. And then I fired the third missile, unknowing that one had just turned into a dumb bomb. Of course, I didn't see it go in front of the plane. I figured it just dropped off. Third missile worked great, and the first and third missile hit the target that I was shooting at. And it was all telemetry from Point Mugu. They were tracking the target and the missiles. They could see where each was. The third missile actually fell down and hit the last piece of the target 10 feet above the water. So all three of them actually hit the target.
Amazing.
At the time, they were $1 million a piece. There's the ladies, 3 generations right there. Remember those jackets?
Yeah. Oh, those. I still have mine.
All right. Mom and the boys.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, they're hooking me up. Otherwise, I'm so short.
5 crowns.
Oh, I got a little,
That was 5 crowns.
Huh? I think this is a
Top
video.
done.
A video break? This is a video I made. I used to get into making videos. At the time, it was videotape, so you had to get a VCR and put one recorder in and hit pause when you wanted to change scenes and then find the new scene. It was kind of a pain, but forgive the workmanship. Oops. Let's go back. So that's the end of the fighter era, and due to a lot of family stuff, my last deployment was VF-213. It was the same thing, a Persian Gulf deployment. We left from Miramar, but the plan was to move all the F-14s to Virginia, and mine was the last squadron. So when we finished that cruise, we actually rode the ship all the way to off the coast of Baja, and then flew all the planes to Virginia from there, and that was it. The squadron was forever in Virginia, and I didn't want to leave San Diego, obviously, so during that deployment I actually applied to be I'll get to that, a logistics pilot. But that was the end of my F-14 time. I didn't want to live in Virginia. Anyone from Virginia? Good, nobody's from there. There's a reason you're all here today. It's California.
Yeah, right.
Oops. Anybody know how to do a PowerPoint video? He'll come back. Not supposed to take cameras in the plane, the Navy aircraft, and so I took it all the time. Can't see it, but that's upside down. I did that on my last flight off the plane. For like half an hour.
Just like Top Gun.
Guy in the back seater did not like that.
What is the ground?
Oh,
Yes.
there's a shadow.
Yeah, it's out in the desert in Arizona. I've got a good story about that too. I think it was that flight. I'll tell you when it's done so you can watch it. Kind of low there.
Is that upside down?
No, that was just turning. So I really enjoyed this. Don't get me wrong. I love flying fighters, and this is why. You can't. It's a roller coaster. I love roller coasters. This one paid for. There's no line. And it doesn't end. You know, you get those big drop-offs that last 5 seconds. You can make them last 2 or 3 minutes in this.
Never bothered you? You never
No.
got sick?
Only when I rode in the back seat one time. They didn't trust the guy up front.
That makes sense.
My wingman got used to me just telling him, I'm going to do some stuff for the camera. They got used to having a camera playing by him.
So you're like your mom, you
Yeah.
shutterbug.
That's probably where I got it.
So you just go out for fun and fly around and keep your skills up?
Yeah, we had tasks to do, but some of them were fun. A lot of the time it wasn't. It was hard. It was work. Anyway, here's the 7-Eleven right there. It's not very big. I'm getting a little shaky
How
watching
fast
this
are
right
you
now.
going?
About 150 miles an hour.
Then you have to stop.
Stopping's the
You
easy
have to
part.
hit the hook.
They hook.
It's catching the wire. That's a hard
Catching the
part.
wire, yeah.
And then as soon as you land, you have to get the flaps up and get the wings back and get out of the landing area because there's a guy 45 seconds behind you. And if they send him around because you're in the landing area, you get in trouble. It's a total high stress environment. It's a different kind of mindset actually out there. In fact, coming back from a 6-month deployment, it took several weeks to deep program.